they don't leave you alone. Once you call them, they're there basically 24/7, making sure that you're not gonna say no. They don't ask you much. They just, can I sell you the money? I mean, it's that easy to get the money out. It's really that easy.
And if you play your cards right, you can actually make
Yes,
money.
you can make money out
You
of
make
it.
money
Yeah.
off of the abortion.
They don't tell you that you don't have to pay that money back. They leave that on the back of your head where if I don't do it, something's gonna happen to me. All that pressure, that they put on you, and then at some point, talking to you like if they were your best friend, like it's okay. We're here for you.
Well, howdy, everyone, and welcome again to the Laura Musica Show, your favorite update in the battle for life, family, and freedom. I'm Laura Musica, attorney and human rights advocate, and I serve as president CEO of Sidewalk Advocates for Life. So excited, so blessed to have you with me once again. This week, we're continuing a two-part conversation with Texas mom Maria, who recently canceled a late-term abortion appointment and courageously chose life for her son. If you haven't yet listened to part one, I highly encourage you to go back and to listen to Maria's full story and what it was that helped her to choose life, even with an abortion funding group relentlessly calling and texting and harassing her for 2 weeks to reschedule. We're going to hear more from Maria here in just a bit, but at this point, I want to bring in another voice into the conversation, and that is Diane Powers, a mom, grandmother, and pro-life advocate who connected and clicked with Maria along the way. She's here as a witness to Maria's story and all that God did, and the call that each one of us has to be there for moms in need, especially in pro-life states like Texas. She's going to join the conversation here in just a bit. So let me go ahead and reintroduce Maria to you and then introduce Diane as well. Maria Salazar is a mother of 3 and has worked for over 20 years in the daycare industry in Dallas, Texas. A handful of months ago, Maria found herself unexpectedly pregnant, but didn't find out until she was about 24 weeks along. Surviving paycheck to paycheck as a single mom with 2 teenage children from a previous relationship, Maria was scared and overwhelmed and considered abortion. The Bridget Alliance, one of the top post-Roe pro-abortion funding groups, offered Maria a fully paid-for trip to Kansas for an abortion. However, when she got to Kansas, she was too far along. She was past the state gestational limit, right? And so the Bridget Alliance offered her another fully paid-for trip to Washington, D.C. to abort her son at 26 weeks. Days before, she made the decision to courageously cancel that appointment, cancel her abortion, and she chose life. For the next 2 weeks, the Bridget Alliance called and texted her relentlessly, trying to get her to reschedule. Maria stayed strong and a few weeks ago gave birth to a healthy baby boy, Jesus. Diane Powers became involved in the pro-life movement in 1979 while living in New Jersey. Since then, she has held positions as the chairman of Union County Right to Life, state board member of New Jersey Right to Life, and numerous positions within other pro-life organizations from New Jersey to Texas. Angel Gowns for Texas is an extension of her pro-life work to ensure that babies who don't make it home from the hospital are treated with dignity and respect. As hospital coordinator, now director of the organization, Diane leads the group of about 25 volunteers. Angel Gowns for Texas serves the NICU departments of 15 hospitals in Dallas-Fort Worth, and Mary's Angels is another Catholic ministry in the Fort Worth Diocese serving parents grieving infant loss. Diane has 3 daughters and 3 grandchildren. Let's go ahead and welcome back to the program, Maria, and then welcome for the first time, Diane. So, Maria, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Great to have you back. And Diane, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for involving me in this wonderful interview.
Oh, we're so excited to have this conversation. So again, I just encourage everyone that if they haven't listened to part 1 of this 2-part interview, I really want to encourage people to go back at some point and listen to Maria's story. It is so powerful. One of the most beautiful stories that I've ever had the privilege of being involved with. And I know, Diane, you feel the same way, which is why we brought you into the conversation. Diane, I really believe, I've heard Maria say this, I've seen this with my own eyes and my own heart. The Holy Spirit matched you and Maria up. You're kindred spirits in so many ways. When you have lived Maria's story, at least in part, alongside of her, when you've heard her testimony, how does that relate to your own, and how do you feel about that?
As a young woman, I believed in abortion. I believed it served the purpose of women in crisis pregnancies. In 1979, I found myself pregnant and thought an abortion was the answer to my problem. It was a stroke of luck that I saw a victim of a late-term abortion that changed my mind and my thinking about abortion. And since then, I've been pro-life. I walk along Maria because her testimony is very similar to mine, as wanting to have an abortion, but then changing my mind. And so I believe that it really has linked us together with similar testimony for life and the life of our children. The daughter that I considered aborting has my twin grandbabies, and they wouldn't be here if I had killed their mother. And so Maria and I are linked together with similar testimonies to show that you don't have to kill your children in an abortion to be able to live a fruitful life.
So powerful. The other thing that's so interesting about both of your stories is that I almost hear you saying this, Diane, as well. As I think back on Maria's testimony last episode, you believed abortion was maybe a simple procedure, but then you saw actually an abortion victim photo, right? You
Yes.
saw a picture of late-term abortion and you said, that's not right. And I remember hearing Maria's testimony and hearing her say, they told me it was going to be simple, that it was just going to be cramps or a heavy period and, you'll forget about it next month, right? Especially as you've walked alongside moms and grieving families at times. How do you see that the world really lies to us about what abortion is, how they try to push this on people and sell a very different product?
As a young woman, I had believed in my body, my choice. I believed all the slogans, every child, a wanted child. And so I believed all those lies. And it wasn't until I went to the library way before Google and investigated abortion procedures and fetal development. And at no point could I determine that it wasn't a baby. And it was that changed my mind, and seeing the victim of abortion from a 6-month-old baby in a bucket. And it wasn't until I saw that picture, because I had believed that abortion was only the first 3 months of a pregnancy. And so it really wasn't a baby. It was a blob. It was a piece of tissue. It was a fetus. It wasn't really formed. And so until I saw those pictures, did I believe that there had to be more truth than the lies I believed in that were spread by Planned Parenthood, by different pro-abortion groups. And so it was my investigation into those areas that changed my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. When you listen to Maria's story, and even having walked with her through part of the end of her pregnancy here, what shocks you about what she went through and what was available to her and other moms who are in crisis?
The relentless pursuit of killing her baby. They didn't give up on her. They walked with her. They talked to her. They assured her. They counseled her. They paid for all of her expenses. They preyed upon her relentlessly as a predator does a victim. And it wasn't until she realized that there were other alternatives and other options for her to really realize how they were pressuring her to kill her baby. They don't do it for free. They get paid to do this, but they were going to take the financial burden off of Maria, which was her main concern. And so once they filled that void for her, there was an opportunity for her to kill her baby and supposedly have no consequences to it. But we know better than that there are many consequences and many repercussions that women suffer after. I know that after my daughter was born and I looked at her and she was perfect, I suffered guilt for a lot of years because I had considered aborting her. Maria's story is very similar to mine. And I assured Maria to not spend years looking at Jesus and thinking about the bad part of what she considered doing to him.
Yeah, yeah. And Maria, someone may be coming in to this episode. They haven't yet heard your full story. Can you talk a little bit about that for a minute, about the pressure that was put on you and because of your situation as well, right? Um, and how you found your way out of that. And I know you've even shared, like, I struggle thinking back on this, that I set this all up, that I had this appointment ready to go at 26 weeks, even before then in Kansas. They couldn't do it because I was too far along. Talk about the pressure that women in your situation experience and how hard that is.
Well, like I told you, you feel pressure by these people because they don't leave you alone. Once you call them, they're there basically 24/7. Just making sure that you go through it with it. Making sure that you're not gonna say no. And they, like I said earlier, they don't tell you that you don't have to pay that money back. They leave that on the back of your head where if I don't do it, something's going to happen to me. I have to pay them the money back, or maybe I can even end up in jail, because fraud, because they think that I just wanted the money and, wasn't really thinking about the abortion. So all that pressure, that they put on you, and then at some point, talking to you like if they were your best friend, like it's okay. We're here for you.
Right, right. And I think you had said that when you first attempted to have an abortion in Kansas, around that time, they had already given you like $2,000,
Yes.
right? Just put that into your account, fully paid for trip to Kansas, flight, hotel, meal money, and beyond, everything, right? And then did the same thing for Washington, D.C. when they set you up for another abortion
Yes.
appointment since you were too far along. But they had given you thousands and thousands of dollars and kept reassuring you, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, right?
It's not a big deal,
Yeah.
It's not a baby. The amount of money that they give you, which I don't see it all together, To me, it was like, this is God sending me all this money because he knows I'm struggling, because he knows I need the money.
Yeah.
And this is going to help out a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So like the answer to your
Yes.
prayers, because you were in such a desperate situation. You were trying to make ends meet, living paycheck to paycheck, 2 other children, found out you were unexpectedly pregnant. And here you are, you find out at 24 weeks, what are you going to do, right? The pressure's on. Daycare and food and transportation and all the worries that all of us carry.
Maternity leave, like I
No
have
maternity
to be out
leave.
of work. What am I going to do? How am I going to pay my bills?
Yeah.
Well, I don't need another child.
Yeah.
And they're willing to pay for the abortion. They're willing to give me money for it because that's what they're doing. They're paying you to get an abortion done.
Yeah, absolutely. And then at one point, I was privileged to get connected to you and reassured you that we had a community, right? We had people who cared just because, right? And that we were going to journey alongside you. So up until that point, you had somebody else who was a counselor through the Bridget Alliance that was walking you through this, reassuring you. And then the Lord brought us together, and I reassured you that we had a community as well, that we were willing to walk with you. But I still remember you saying, gosh, the other side offered me a trip, 2 trips, fully paid for, thousands of dollars, like at my fingertips, right? Where is the pro-life community, right?
They don't ask you much. They just, can I sell you the money?
Wow.
I mean, it's that easy to get the money out.
Yeah.
It's really that easy.
And if you play your cards right, you can actually make money.
You can make money out of it.
You make money off of the abortion.
And I'm pretty sure that there's, a lot of people that,
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like I said, they don't ask you for much, and as soon as they know, they will sell you 200 right there,
Wow. When you made a different decision, they didn't leave you alone. They kept calling and texting and wanting you to go through with the appointment, right? But at that point, a new community came alongside of you. we were able to reassure you, no, we have financial backing as well. We can help out with needs, and then we'll be there to journey alongside of you. But I've thought about the fact that if I didn't do this work full time, where would other people be, right?
They told me, don't listen to those people because they only want you to keep the baby, but they're not going to help you. Remember, I told you, Lauren, they're telling me that, don't believe in nobody. That since work, for life, just promise me things that you're going to help me, but you're really not.
They just want you to have the baby and then they're going to drop you.
You remember that I called you crying and I told you that they had said that. The lady was like, don't listen to them because they just want you to keep the baby and they're not going to, be there for you. And I asked you that. I remember I told you that crying. I said, I'm scared because they told me that you just want me to keep the baby and then you're going to leave me all alone.
And then I don't know if you remember, I think I said right after that, or I asked you, do you trust me? Have I been truthful in everything that I've said up until this point? Will you trust me with the rest of the journey, right? And you did. Yes. You took a leap of faith. You said, I don't really know this lady very well, but I'm going to trust her. I'm going to trust that she's going to back up what she's saying, continue to back up what she's saying. And then the beautiful community that you even had at your baby shower. And that's where you met Diane, right? And I remember you even said to me after the baby shower, Diane is special. Diane is special.
Yeah, I remember, I think I called you or in the message, I said, that lady there, I don't know, I don't remember her name, but I just felt some type of attachment with her, Like she made me feel so comfortable, like she brought me so much peace. I told you that.
Yeah,
I told you that on the phone call.
I know. Oh.
And you said, do you want me to give you her number? I said, yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, we need each other. We need community, right?
And, she's been an angel. She's been a blessing in my life.
Yes. Well, and I remember at the baby shower, because it was about 10 of us, right? And we were all sitting around the table and you shared more of your story with us. I still remember Diane walking in and seeing the cake and it said, welcome Jesus, because you had decided that at that point you were going to name your son after our Lord because of everything that he had done recently in your life, right? And Diane walked up to that cake and started to cry because she said, oh, she's going to name him Jesus, right? Do you remember that moment?
Absolutely. I remember that moment so vividly because I thought you were thanking Jesus for Maria. I never realized until you explained to me that she was going to name the baby Jesus. So if you had not invited me to that shower, none of this would have happened. So thank you for inviting me to that shower and meeting Maria and her daughter and Jesus now after he's been born and he's beautiful and perfect. And I remember Maria saying something to me on the phone. And she said, Diane, even if they tell me that he's born with special needs, whether he's a Down syndrome baby, whether he has any imperfect features to him, I'm going to keep him and love him no matter what. And when she told me that, I knew that her heart had been totally changed. And she's my hero because I've been there and I've walked this journey myself, and I know how she feels, and I know how she used to feel, and how her heart has been totally converted. And she's probably, at some point, going to be with us either outside of an abortion facility, sharing her testimony with other women, or she's going to be doing it through these podcasts, or written down somewhere. But she's going to be a pro-life hero because she's already a hero of mine.
Yeah. Oh, so well said. I feel the exact same way. I've been working with women for over 20 years, and I've just always said Maria's special in the way that she's, said yes to God and been willing to share her story. And she does it so well, too. That's just the perk, right? So good. Diane, I want you to talk to people about here we are in post-Roe America, and people are tempted to say, oh, abortion is illegal in Texas. Our work is done, right? We don't need to worry about this quite as much. But obviously, just listening to Maria's story, I think we all realize that we still have work to do, in coming alongside moms and helping them and making sure that they don't feel alone. Can you talk to people a little bit more about what it is to, yes, rejoice as a Texan that abortion is illegal here. It gets people to think at the very least before they go across state lines. But the fact that we still have work to do.
We have lots of work to do. Our work is not finished. It's only started because Planned Parenthood and other organizations that thrive on the lies and the telling women that they'll be better off if they kill their babies will just send them to other places and will pay for everything. And we have to walk alongside these women, not for a day, not for a month, not for a year, but forever, and to help them understand that their choice of life was infinitely the right choice, and not hide behind the lies and the masks of the evil one that wanted to take their babies away from them.
Maria, can I have you also speak to people who are listening today who want to help and they have a tug on their heart to help, right? Why it's important that they listen to that they follow that, and in the need that's out there. Because I think a lot of us, we might be in our bubble. Maybe we're not struggling financially right now. We don't see the need right in front of our face. Can you talk about even what you saw in the waiting room in Kansas and the need that is there?
A lot of us are afraid to say we want to get an abortion because we're not financially stable. We wanted to get an abortion because we're living day by day. And, abortion clinics are willing to help you. But I know, the organization that you have, there's people that, that if they can help, with just a little bit, even to save one baby, I think that would be great. But, like you said earlier, the abortion clinics, they don't wait not even an hour to offer you the help. And that's why women go through with the abortion. So if there was more help out there for us, or to make us feel like, we are going to help you, I think more women would think about abortion, not go through it with it.
The other thing that struck me about your story that I didn't even consider until we were sitting at this table doing part one of the interview was that they assigned you a guide, like a counselor, someone to keep reassuring you, walking with you. And I want people to understand the importance of that too, like being a bridge and being a friend to somebody, right?
Yes, it's not just about, let me help you out, financially. Mm-hmm. There's more to it. Once you have the baby, you feel so lonely, because most of us that look for an abortion we're very lonely people. We don't have nobody to talk to. We don't have nobody to cry to. Not too long ago, I talked to Diane and I told her how I was feeling really sad, after I had the baby. So it's just not about, just helping financially, but making sure that you're going to stay with us, and letting us know that we have somebody that we can call on the phone and say, hey, you know what? Today, it was not a good day. Today, it was really bad, but I needed somebody to talk to. I needed somebody to tell me that they're going to pray for me. That's a big difference, because when I was thinking about the abortion and I had this person, she would call me every day, making sure that I was okay.
Isn't that wild?
So it's just not about, okay, here goes the money to stop you from having the abortion, but actually have someone that can call you and tell you it's okay, everything's going to be okay. I'm here for you. I'm going to pray for you. I have a group of people that don't know you, but they care about you.
Yeah. So it's not just about providing financially, but being a friend.
Yes.
And journeying with people as well. I, again, remember from your first testimony, the first part of the interview here, you saying that that woman called and checked on you every single day leading up to the abortion. And then when you were on your way to the abortion facility, she called you every hour, right?
Yeah. And that was on the weekend. And I remember she said they don't work on Saturdays, but she was willing to be on the phone with me throughout the whole process.
Yeah. And it just hits me how much more we need to be at the ready to serve women, because we have the message of life. We have the message of God, right? Of hope.
And it's like I say, most of the people that have abortions or think about abortion, we're very lonely people. We are very lonely people. And sometimes just, the fact that somebody cares about you so much, somebody cares about what's going on with you. I remember having you and having Diane call me about my doctor's appointments when I would go in to the doctor. So all that, call whenever we have a doctor's appointment and see how we're doing.
Yeah.
See how, what the doctor said about the baby. How is the baby?
Yeah.
All that.
Right, right. And for people who are listening who are saying, okay, like, I now hear the need, right? We need to be there, especially in our pro-life states where abortion is illegal and women may be getting set up through one of these abortion funds to travel across state lines. We're talking about Texas and Tennessee and Louisiana. There's about 13 states that ban abortion right now. And to me, it's even more important that we're at the ready to serve our friends and our neighbors, because our friend or neighbor may be considering abortion, or they may be ordering abortion drugs off the internet and getting them delivered via mail, and then their bathroom becomes an abortion facility and they're going through that alone, right? And so we can be at the ready to provide life-affirming resources for our friends and neighbors. But the other thing that I want people to know is that, again, Maria, you have inspired something new in Sidewalk Advocates for Life that we're calling Maria's Fund. These pro-abortion funds are often named after women, like the Bridget Alliance, which, by the way, is actually named after Saint Bridget of Ireland, a Catholic saint. That's a whole other story. If you can believe that, that is absolutely mind-blowing to me that they had the audacity to name their abortion fund after that, right? But then there's Jane's Fund. There's all these pro-abortion funds that are out there that are at the ready to throw thousands of dollars at women to get them across state lines, to capitalize off their crisis, to make money off of their plight, right? And it just hit me, how much more ready do we need to be? How much more ready do we need to be as a people of God and faith and hope and love to provide for women if they want to change their minds and go back home and have their babies? And so that's going to be Maria's Fund. It's going to be an opportunity for people to give to that. And we're going to do a real quick screening on the sidewalk. We're going to teach our sidewalk advocates to figure out who's in need, who needs this, right? And to be able to instantly provide those funds to travel back home to get meal money. Because as soon as the abortion fund finds out that someone wants to change their mind, they're ready to drop you, or they're putting pressure on you to go through with it, right? And you experienced that, Maria, right?
And I remember when I called that when it was first for Kansas City, thinking less than 5 minutes on the phone, they gave me 10 different names of organizations that are willing to pay for everything.
Wow.
So they have a lot.
They have a lot of money.
They have a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of people out there that are funding this.
Yeah. And the great thing is we at Sidewalk Advocates for Life, because of who we are, we do crisis intervention on the sidewalk. We're able to be the friend, because there's going to be, I know, moms and dads and businessmen and businesswomen who are listening to this podcast and they're going, well, I hear the need both for financial support and to be a friend. And we at Sidewalk Advocates for Life can be that friend, but we need everyone as a community to come together and give of their precious treasure. Yes, if they can give their time on the sidewalk as well, right? But I think the question is, now knowing this, what are we called to do? And I just really encourage everyone who's listening to this to take that to prayer, to think about that. Yes, we need to be at the ready to refer someone in need to our local pregnancy resource center, where they'll get all of their options. They'll get a free sonogram. I know, Maria, you went to one of those places. I think it was Prestonwood Pregnancy Center, right? And you
they
got
were so nice.
Yeah, that's where you found out you were having a boy, right? You were found out that you were indeed 26 weeks along and you were having a little boy.
And that's when I decided to name him Jesus in that first appointment.
And those beautiful women that surrounded you.
Yeah, I remember, the lady
you.
that was at the front desk, she cried. She cried when I got there. She cried after when I left. And she was like, it's such a miracle. I was like, yeah. Yeah, it is. It is such a miracle. It's just beautiful. I was part of the story and I felt like I was along for the ride. God obviously was doing something. So, well, I want to just kind of get from both of you in closing, anything else from your heart that you want to share that you want people to know. So maybe Maria, I'll start with you and close with Diane. But what do you want people to know as they're listening to this? Encourage people to help. Encourage people the people that can, you know, to help out.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's a lot of women out there, a lot. You know, the day that I went for my appointment, I easily counted 15, you know. And like you said, you know, to be ready to help when, you know, people arrive at that abortion centers,
Yeah.
you know. So that if I could, you know, change something today or let people know is help.
Yeah.
We need help.
Yeah. And there's so many people I know who can't get to the sidewalk. You know, it's like one of our ministry partners, top ministry partners, she's at home with her 7 kids, you know, but they give so generously because that's the role that the Lord has called them to play. So it's help however we can
Yes.
and however we're called. Yeah. Diane, what about you?
I think Maria's testimony is an example of our emotional connection with these women, not just the financial. The fact that everything was paid for was important to her, but the fact that she had somebody walk alongside her, counsel her, advise her, just listen to her, I think that's a huge component in making a decision for or against abortion. You know, so many groups claim that all we care about is the baby. I would challenge you to go to any Planned Parenthood abortion facility and ask for diapers and wipes and cribs and car seats, and they don't have the resources to do that, but they have the resources to kill your baby. And so remove the mask from these pro-abortion groups who make you think that they're your friends, but they're not really your friends. And walking alongside women, I think, is so important to us as pro-life people. It's important to the people that we serve, and it saves lives. Jesus is a perfect example. When you look at him and see that he could have been a statistic and could have easily been erased from this world. And he will someday grow up and have children of his own. And Maria's grandchildren will stand in front of her, and she'll tell her story to those grandchildren, and they will marvel at her story and her testimony for years to come and thank her for her sacrifice.
Which I know your family has done as well. So you've walked that out and you're still walking that out as a grandmother now. It's so beautiful. Well, I want to thank both of you ladies so much. Maria, thank you again for sharing your story, for being courageous enough to share your story. You know, one form or another, we all have a testimony, big or small, right? But you've got a really powerful story and you didn't have to tell it. And I know you did it because you wanted to help other people. Thank you for that. And Diane, thank you for just being the best pro-life friend that anybody could ever have. It really is a joy to know you and to just be a witness to all the great work God is doing.
It's my honor to be part of working with sidewalk advocates, working with any pro-life organizations, and working with moms who choose life.
So good. Thank you both so much. All right. Well, in closing here, I want to invite all of you, if you were inspired by Maria's story, I want to invite you to do 2 things. First, please share both episodes, part 1 and part 2. The link to part 1 will be in the show notes if you need to grab that quickly. And consider, as a second thing, giving to help moms like Maria. We at Sidewalk Advocates for Life were so inspired by Maria's story that we decided, you know what? We're missing something in our ministry, something so desperately needed in the post-Roe versus Wade landscape. And that is the nation's first rapid response pro-life fund to counter abortion travel funding and abortion tourism. It's something we at Sidewalk Advocates for Life felt called to form right after walking with Maria through this last part of her pregnancy and into her now holding Jesus in her arms. We're calling it Maria's Fund, again, inspired by her. This new fund will help cover a mother's basic needs to travel back home while getting set up with one of our pregnancy center partners, because we see that out on the sidewalk, that we need a bridge of services and then need to get her into the arms of her home pregnancy center. But quite often there's a gap there because the abortion group will drop mom if she considers choosing life after she's traveled across state lines for an abortion, leaving her stranded and totally without emotional or material support. So I want and to invite everyone to go to sidewalkadvocates.org. Again, that's sidewalkadvocates.org to give to this brand new groundbreaking initiative. And if you give within the next couple weeks, this is just such a blessing. We've had generous ministry partners who are so excited to get behind Maria's fund, and they are going to match and double your gift just for the next few weeks. So again, go to sidewalkadvocates.org to help moms like Maria find real hope and help. This is what it means to be pro-life. Well, with that, thank you again for joining me for another episode of the Laura Musica Show. We'll be back here next Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central on the Sidewalk Advocates for Life Facebook page, YouTube channel, or wherever you get podcasts. Thanks so much, everybody.